And we are live on Facebook.
Awesome. Live on Facebook.
Okay. Requesting to join.
Excellent. I'm accepting your request.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Come on, accept.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, you're here. Yay! Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Excellent. Hi, honey. Let me
Hi,
bring down
everyone.
our presentation here, get us all connected. And now let's see if I can send a request to join. Okay. Request to join. Come on, request to join, send request. Accepted. All right, I'll be joining us in just a second.
And there you are.
And here I am. Bring the volume down
Yeah,
everywhere. Hello, hello, everyone. All right, can you hear me okay? Does
I
everybody
can
hear
hear
us
you.
okay?
Are we good? Let us know. Throw some thumbs up if we're good on the sound and everything
Okay.
else. We have a really great episode in store for you all today. If you're just joining us, welcome. Today, episode number 88, The Anatomy of a Drapery Panel. For those of you who are watching for the first time, we're just going to introduce ourselves really quickly. I'm Kimberly Seraphim, one of the partners here at WindowWorks, who are located in Livingston, New Jersey. We specialize in window treatments and in awnings. And joining me every Friday is my window treatment BFF.
My name is Vida Bajgowska. I'm the owner of Italia Inc. Window Treatments. We are a comprehensive window treatment company to the trade located in the Philadelphia area, servicing the entire country and the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's talk about the anatomy of drapery panels. So we talked about
Yes.
pleats before, certainly talked about many drapery panels in the past, but today we thought that we would help you guys break it down into some elements that make up the drapery and what those elements mean and how we think of a drapery panel, how we specify so that you can specify it to your workroom.
Correct.
So Kim, you kick us off.
Okay, so right here is sneak peek. This is actually the drapery panels that we installed in my living room.
Oh, this is yours.
Yes.
Awesome. They look
Okay,
great.
thank you. Okay, so just if you are unaware of what pleats are, this particular pleat, this is a two-prong pinch pleat, and what we did here, because the pleat sizes, if you've watched episodes before on pleats, standard is about 3.5. I wanted to make it a little bigger to really, see what that would look like in a ceiling height that was only 8-foot high ceilings, because I don't have really high ceilings in this particular room.
And you're
And I went
talking about the length of the
the,
pleat
the
now,
length
not
of
the
the pleat,
distance
not the
between.
distance in between, correct. So the length of the pleat. So this length of this pleat is about 5.5 inches. So I wanted it to be a little bit bigger. And what we're showing here is what I wanted to focus on this particular photo here is the lead edge of the drapery panel. These are stationary panels. They are about each panel is a width and a half. I also have a zoomed out shot. I don't know if Stephanie included that in the
Let's see, we have a
presentation.
return shot. Yep, that's all we.
Okay, she didn't get the zoomed out shot. Okay, so I'll post the zoomed out shot to my stories a little later. So it's a width and a half each panel on either side. So for that, the window is only about 72 inches wide, but I made the rod a whole 8 foot because I wanted the window to feel a little bit wider.
Actually,
So,
you know what? Hang on a second. Let me see if I can. Maybe she did. As I scroll through these, let me know if any of. Oh, right
there
here.
it is. That's it right there.
Okay,
Perfect.
hang on. Let me do this right here. Let me bring
Perfect.
it over, then bring it
Technology.
down. That's all
There we
right.
go.
Here we are.
There you go. Now you can see it. All right. So this is the little reading nook that I, in my mind one day I'll get to read in this part of my house.
And I saw these pillows. I'm like, oh yeah, those are the pillows using the same fabric as the back of those chairs that we did a few episodes
Yes,
ago.
yes.
I'm like, this fabric looks familiar, and I remember her mentioning it in some context. Oh, that's right, that's her pillows.
Those are, sidebar, my curated Cravat pillows. So those were already made up. So if you are a designer, Cravat has a ton of pillows already made. made. So it was really great. I was able to just be like, great, click, order, and they were,
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that.
yes, yes. So
Curated pillows, ready-made. That's
right,
really
they're
cool.
ready made at the fabric. They're 20 by 20 down fill. It includes the pillow, the actual
Form.
shell, and the insert and everything else. Very, very well priced. Anyway,
Nice.
okay, so what you can see here is each panel is a width and a half. Now I even double checked myself this morning, but then I used 118-inch goods, so there was no seam, but you could tell by the amount of pleats that there are that these were one
Fuller.
width panels. Yeah, they're a little fuller. As we discussed last week with ripple fold, I like a little bit of a beefier, fuller type of drape, meaning that the space between the pleats, there isn't that much of a space between the pleats. I like them a little closer. So you kind of get that chunky kind of a look. So that's where the fullness here is 2.5 to 1 full. So that means, how much fabric you put into, excuse me, how much fabric you put into the pleats and each with the fabric. So this is a far away shot. And then what I was showing you was the lead edge.
Yeah.
Because they are stationary panels, I like the look of seeing the lead edge. Now, sometimes we can fold the lead edge over and hook it onto the first pleat. That's another way that some designers like it as well. So this is just an example of I like seeing the lead edge like this,
Yeah.
and the lead edge having its own ring. And then
And then here, do you
and
want
this
to talk?
is the return. So what which is nice about this, which is the difference between like say custom and ready-made panels, is the we have it so that the fabric of the panel returns back to the wall. So you're not seeing through the side of the window treatment. Now, by doing this, you have to specify, it goes hand in hand when you're specifying your drapery hardware when you're doing this. So these particular brackets were 3.5 inches. So I did a 3.5 inch return. So it went back to the wall. We put a little screw into the wall right where the pin, it's another drapery pin, and we just hook it right on there. So it just sits very tight and very close to the wall. And this way it just sits very seamless right there up against the wall.
Awesome. Okay, and I'm actually going to take what you just showed us and break it down even a little bit further. But let me just show another project here. This is a project that we did here at Vitalia Inc. for a wonderful designer of ours. Her name is Anita Householder of House Edits. And if you're just joining us, those who've just joined us in the last couple of minutes, know that you are watching episode number 88 of Window Treatment Friday Live, which is a series that Kim and I have been doing for nearly 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
This is when we get together every Friday morning at 9 a.m. and talk shop on all things window treatments. And today's topic, every Friday it's a different topic, and today's we wanted to take the drapery panel, just very basic, if you will, window treatment nowadays. Everybody specifies drapery panels, and we wanted to take it apart so that you know exactly what makes up a drapery panel. So Kim just talked to you about the panels that she did in her house, and she mentioned the lead edge and the return. So I wanted to take that apart a bit more, and I'm going to do that with a
mock panel.
with the mock panel, exactly. So this is a panel that we use here. You can see that it has all sorts of different pleats, and that's because it's a sample that we often take on our appointments to show designers and our clients the different types of headers that you can have. The reason I'm bringing it up right now is to show you that the distance on the panel between the first pleat and the last pleat right here. So we can see the full width here on Facebook. On Instagram, the screen is a little smaller, so I'm just going to rotate it like this. So the width of the panel between the first pleat and the last pleat is called face width. Face width. The piece of the panel that goes from the very first pleat to the very edge of the panel, this piece right here, this distance, this is called the leading edge. This is the side of the panel that faces the center of the window. And if it's a pair of the panels, that you have the lead edge on one side, and then you have the lead edge on the opposite side. The reason it's called the lead edge is because if the panels were to close, they would be leading towards each other, yes, and either overlapping or coming close together like this.
I feel like a flight attendant.
I know.
Like when they're doing the emergency, like, it's an
In
awesome,
case
your
of
seatbelt.
emergency, put the thing on you first and then take care of your child.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so this is called the lead edge. Now, this lead edge can be different dimensions.
Yep.
What I think, Kim, you just mentioned, you like yours pretty wide. What's your standard here?
Like
Is there a
3,
go-to?
like
You go
3.
for 3 inches. So at Vitalia Inc., our standard is an inch and a half. And so right there and then you can see that we have two different companies doing the same thing and really having different standards, I guess. And that just because there's really isn't a standard per se, the way we think of standard. The leading edge dimension really has to do with personal preference. Kim likes hers really wide and she wants to put additional ring on the end. I personally just happen to like mine smaller so that the last ring is hooked onto the pleat and then this edge is kind of left hanging by itself. However, there is a caveat to that. If the leading edge has a trim like this, then the lead edge is informed by the width of the trim that you're applying onto the lead edge. For us at Vitalia Inc., anything that is above 2 inches, so if it's an inch and a half, we would leave it without the ring, it would just be hanging. Anything that is 2 inches and above does get a ring, because what happens at 2 inches, this lead edge starts to kind of fall down and droop a little bit. Yeah, Kim, is that your impersonation of the drooping leading edge? So the rule of thumb, I would say, anything that is an inch and a half and under does not necessarily have to have a ring. You can still put a ring, but it doesn't have to because it is stiff enough for it to not droop. Anything that is 2 inches and above would tend to droop, and you would need to have a ring to hold it up. Okay, so this is your leading edge. Now, as we travel on the drapery panel to the other edge, to the back of it, this edge right here after the last pleat, this one is called a return. And I'm going to go back to Kim's picture because it's a really good one. This return, you don't see it if you look straight at the window. You only see it if you come around and look at the window from the side, because this edge gets returned or moved at 45-degree angle towards the wall. And the reason for that is so that you don't see anything through the panel. Everything is nicely enclosed on the side of the panel. So there you have the total width of the panel. You have face width, which is from very first pleat to the very last pleat. You have the leading edge, and then you have the return. And together, you have the total width of the panel. So the return is, let's say, if it's 3.5 inches, that's usually for a single bracket. And let's say your face width is about 20 inches, which is what you can usually get from a single width of material. And let's say your lead edge is 1.5 inches. So 3.5 of return plus 1.5 of lead edge, that's 5 inches. And then you have 20 inches of the face. So your total width of the panel is 25 inches. And so there's a little bit of math lesson for you right there. Nobody really knows that drapery panels and custom window treatments have so much math involved. And here you have, it's somewhat rudimentary, right? It's simple, but we wanted to let you know exactly how all of those elements get added up to arrive at the full width of the drapery panel. So hope this makes sense, you guys. If it doesn't, or if you have any clarifying questions about this particular piece of the topic, go ahead and put it into the comments.
Yes, and also some, like we call it here, either the panel width or the face width or the rod width. So like that's also another terminology too. So if you are working with a window treatment specialist and they go, what is your rod width? That's what that means, from one pleat to the next pleat, the first pleat to the last pleat. What do you want that to be?
Yeah, and see, and I would actually have a little bit of a thing with that.
All right, let's go.
Let's
Yeah,
get into it. That's right.
let's
So,
go into
and
it.
this is the best part. Kim and I, we don't practice these. We don't
Nope.
know exactly what, either one of us is going to say. And in some things we agree, and in some things we disagree. But these disagreements, it's okay, because as long as we talk things through.
Right.
Let me tell you why I don't like calling it rod width.
Okay.
In the example of your drapery panels. So let me go back to your full picture. These are stationary, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So your total rod is how much?
It was 96 inches.
96. But your total each drape is?
Each drape was pleat to pleat is 30 inches. So my rod width on that was technically 60 inches.
Right, but the rod is 96. So do you see, this
Yep.
is where I think it can
Yeah.
get confusing.
Right. So if you're specifying and not specifying the hardware, it gets a little tricky. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, and because in the beginning of my career as a window treatment specialist, when I used to use the terminology rod width, and I'm like, wait a second, but my panel is 30 inches, but my rod is 96 inches. How does it make sense? And so at some point, I'm like, okay, this confusion has to stop. So, is your computer?
No, my phone started sliding.
So, so I personally, again, this is a matter of personal preference and what you guys decide to do for your business and how you communicate with your workroom. But for me personally, I decided to stop using the terminology of rod width and using the terminology of face width, lead edge, return, and total width, and excluding the rod out of that equation altogether, because the rod oftentimes the rod width is completely irrelevant to the width of the panel.
Right.
So that's just what I decided to do. You guys can, do.
Yeah, no, we call it the face width. That's what we call it, the face, because it's the face of the panel. It's just I know for like what you're saying.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Some workrooms call it the rod width. So it's just like, so this way, in case, everyone calls it calls it something different from what style pleat, an inverted French is a Euro pleat, a tack top pleat. So just this way, we're covering all
bases. No, for sure.
bases.
For
So
sure.
yeah, there's face width, finish width, cut length, finish length. It's a whole.
Yep. Yeah. So just know, you guys, that there could be different terminologies, and don't assume that you and your workroom are saying the same thing.
Right. And I mean, generally, like when I know for us, when we're dealing with our designers, I don't even talk to them about finish width and everything else. I just say, how wide do we want to make these panels pleat to pleat? We don't even get into the whole, okay, what's your finish width? What's your face width? What's the whole, those details, I leave those up to myself and my team.
Okay. So just to go back real quick to this one project that we did for Anita, here is a close-up. This is a single width of fabric, meaning that the fabric comes off the bolt in usually 54-inch goods. This was 54-inch goods. So you take 54 inches, and when you pleat it down, and when you add the return, when you add the overlap here, the return here, it comes to something that looks about like this, which we finish at around 25 inches. And then we also have this term of
dressed width. Yes, so do we.
What is that called again? Dressed width, exactly.
Dressed width, yes.
So we have a term here at finished width as well as dressed width. And it is the dressed width actually that I talk to the designer about all the time. So she doesn't care that it finishes at 30 inches or it finishes at 40 or 25. Really what the designer and the customer cares about, once it's installed,
what is it going to look like?
Does it look like this? Does it look like this? Does it look like this? How much light is it going to take? How much of the window is it going to take up? How much of the wall is it going to take up? So those are the conversations that you ultimately have on the end consumer level. However, in order to have those, you need to understand everything that goes into making of the panel so that you know what it can dress down to.
Right.
So I hope that makes sense to you guys.
And oftentimes too, depending on I know when we do like a larger window, right? what I will often do is I'll figure out, okay, we can't just do a single width 20-inch panel because from a proportion standpoint, that's going to look crazy.
Yeah.
So what we'll do a lot of times is I'll speak to the designer and say, I'm going to make the panel so it comes down to, this wide, but then
Hmm.
on the install, Billy's going to dress it down to say maybe that 24 inches, but the panel itself can move just so that it has that fullness to
Fullness.
it.
Hmm.
And the pleats might be touching. Where here you're seeing the space in between the pleats. Where in mine, the pleats were touching. Like
Almost touching each
if
other.
I were to draw those panels closer, they could almost touch, so to speak. There'd only be, a couple of maybe 18 inches of space in between the panels. But I purposely did that because I wanted to make the window feel wider.
Hmm.
And so there's different ways to play around to trick the eye. So this is actually a display that we have here in our showroom. And what I wanted to show here is the panels on the ends are one width panels, and the center panel is what a two width panel looks like. So if the
This
panels
is
on the
really
end,
great, by the way, Kim.
yeah,
Like every time I come into your showroom, like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what a designer or a customer needs to see, because that's a question that we get asked all the time.
yeah. So the panels on the ends each have 5 pleats, and the panel in the center has 10 pleats. So this is just another example of like what does one width look like versus two widths. And then the display that I have in the back, that was a ripple fold, and I have 1.5 versus 2 full widths. So that way you can kind of see what that looks like.
Mhm.
I didn't take a picture of it, but this is something that I wanted to showcase since we were talking about the different anatomy of the drapery panels.
Mhm. Okay, so just a couple of more pictures of drapery panels here. What I wanted to specifically concentrate on here, because we're talking about the anatomy and what goes into the drapery panel and the
Mhm.
making of it, is I want to talk to you about Buckram. And if you're like, Buckram,
Yes.
what the heck is that? So Buckram is, it looks like this. Essentially, it is a paper product. I'm sure there's more things than paper inside. There's some sort of a poly
Yeah,
makeup
to
that
make it.
goes into it. But the idea is that it is, it's a stiffener.
Hmm.
So this is a piece of buckram that you're seeing. Here I have a roll of buckram on the screen. It looks like toilet paper. I
Yeah.
just realized it. I assure you this is not toilet paper. And you know how I can tell, how I can prove it? Because look, I can crease it, and it looks like this. Do you see how it keeps its crease? And I can crease it some more. And here you have
That would be some pretty
more
rough toilet
crease.
paper.
There's going to be some rough toilet paper. Okay, so why am I showing you this? The reason you need to have buckram is because in order for the pleats to stay as stiff and shaped as they are, you can't just put them in like fabric alone.
Mm-mm.
You can pleat it, you can pinch it, but what will happen with the pleat, it will just sort of like droop down. This is Kim's and my version
Yeah,
of
of the
a
droop down. Exactly.
droopy pleat. So between the face width and the back of the panel, which
Hmm.
is lining, there is, if you can hear it, do you hear the crinkling? I'll
Hmm.
stop talking for a second. There is this paper, there is this buckram that is inserted between the face fabric and the lining. And it is together with the buckram that this pleat is created and tacked.
Hmm.
This is two different places. And it is because of the stiffener, the buckram. If you don't remember the word buckram, just remember it's a stiffener that comes on the roll. And it is what holds the pleat in place. Okay. Now these buckrams, they usually come in 3 or 4 inch lengths. This particular one looks like it's 3 inches. It also comes in 4 inches too. There are some times that we want a really, really long pleat. We did an episode on pleats a little while ago, so it may behoove us to maybe redo it again. But
Right.
there's pleat that is called Gasic Pleat. It's named after an interior designer that we work with here in the Philadelphia area. He came up with it. And that pleat is really long. And so it's about 10 inches. So what we do is we take this buckram and we connect it to another piece of buckram. So we connect them together like this.
Right.
So it becomes a really, really long piece of stiff material. And then from it, we can pinch it in two different places at the top and the bottom and create a nice, long, elongated, stiff pleat that holds its shape. And so the word stiff, I don't know if it has a bad connotation for you guys or not. If it does, it really isn't for the purposes of making it stiff per se. It's just so that it can hold its shape. And in order to do that, it has to be assisted by something stiff inside.
Yes.
So
shout out to Richard. Yes.
Richard Gasic. He's the owner of Gasic Design Group in Bucks County, Philadelphia area, and he was the one who came up with this awesome pleat. So we'll have to redo that episode again.
Yes.
Actually, speaking of, I don't know if you can tell. Now, I think this is too
kind of. You'd have to really put your face at the screen.
Fabric, but this happens to be a Richard Gasic pleat. Another thing that so just look at it as controlled versus stiff. Yeah, Kim, that's a good way, like a controlled look. Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about are weights that go inside the hems.
The bottom hems.
Actually, let me show you what a bottom hem looks like on my.
Yeah, and let's talk about how the lining isn't sewn all the way to the bottom. If we can flip that around, because we've had we've had customers question, like, is this right that this doesn't go all the way down?
Right. Okay, so I just flipped the my sample over. This is what the back of the panel looks like. So this right here is called the side hem. Okay, it is stitched all together with the lining, and the way that custom drapery is done versus ready-made is we take the face fabric, we take the lining, put on top of it, and then we fold it twice over together. Versus ready-made, what oftentimes happens, not always, but oftentimes, is they use a pillowcase effect, meaning that they have the face fabric, the lining, they stitch it together and they invert it. Yeah, so it's kind of like, think of a pillowcase, and that's what happens with ready-mades. The reason you don't want that is because a pillowcase will, when it's really long and made into a long drapery, it starts puffing out. Whereas when you have something like this, that's nicely stitched together like this with a machine called blind hem, so you don't see any of the stitching on the front, on the face, it drapes a lot better together. Okay, so we use, our standard at Vitalia Inc. is 2-inch side hem. Some workrooms use 1.5 inches, and that's okay too. Whether it's 1.5 inches or 2 inch is not going to make a big difference, as long as it's not pillowcase stitch. So that's the important thing to make sure with your workroom. That's side hem. Let's talk about the bottom hem. The bottom hem looks like this. It is 4-inch. Double turned. And to Kim's earlier point, the face fabric is hemmed separately from the lining. The lining, as you can see, is hemmed separately. And the reason for that, Kim, do you want to take that part?
Well, the reason for that is sometimes, depending on the face fabric, you don't want it so that the liner fabric droops down lower. So we've had it where we've had clients who have actually taken old drapes and had them dry cleaned, and the face fabric has shrunk up, and then the liner fabric is sticking out from underneath. So especially when you're working with linen, because linen, as we know, loves to grow and loves to shrink. So if you could imagine, if the liner and the face were even, it doesn't give the opportunity for the fabric to kind of breathe, so to speak, so it doesn't like peek through. So if you ever had custom drapes made and you're wondering, why is there, like, it doesn't go all the way down to the ground, for that reason.
Right. And also the reason that they are not hemmed together, you don't want them hemmed together at the bottom because
No,
if you think about it, they are connected at the top where
top
the
and on the
pleats are.
sides.
They're connected on the sides where the side hems are. The bottom, I really like the word that you just used, it lets it breathe.
Hmm.
And so you want this to be separate so that it can hang separately and breathe separately. There are two different makeups of the lining is usually cotton or a cotton poly, and the face fabric is
Is
whatever
whatever.
you guys specify.
Yeah.
So you want the two different makeups of the fabrics breathe separately, and also if it's sewn together, again, what will happen is they will start pucker out and kind of poof out. So think of like a wedding dress, an A-line wedding dress, or an old-fashioned prom dress. It just will start poofing out and not allowing because the air can't kind of circulate inside. It won't allow it to just hang nicely and breathe nicely on its own. So absolute standard, and that's a standard in the custom window treatment industry, is that the face fabric is hemmed separately from the lining. And to Kim's earlier point, the lining is slightly shorter
Shorter.
than the face fabric to allow for the stretching and the breathing and just letting it hang the way it needs to hang without peeking through.
Now, I just really quickly back to the hooping of the fabric. That still can happen. And I have a window treatment here on display here at Window Works that a part of me has wanted to get rid of because the fabric billows out and it hoops out. And then a part of me is like, no, we're going to keep it because
Because you want to show it.
I want clients to be able to see that the makeup of the fabric and the weave of the fabric can also make it hoop out.
Yeah,
And we tied it up here when we had an event here in October when EW had their conference here,
exciting
and
windows.
yeah, exciting windows, and we tied it up for about 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
The panel because it looks crazy. It absolutely does not look good at all, at all, at all, at all, at all. Like it
I
was
didn't
just
notice it. I was just there the other day. I
no,
didn't
and
notice
it
it.
drove like well because I all
You
weekend
adjusted.
leading up to the lunch and learn, I was like, you will behave, you will be trained. So yeah, but
You're
so
taming the drapery
I
panel.
yes.
Kim the tamer.
So it can happen. So I don't want anybody to think, well, because the lining isn't attached to the bottom and all the way down, that it can happen. And I have an example here at Window Works because of the way that the fabric is woven. So sometimes I know it's tough when we're looking at a tiny sample. I had a fabric rep tell me she knows the difference between someone who's like a window treatment specialist versus a designer when they're showing samples because the
Mhm.
designers are like, oh, these are pretty, where a window treatment specialist is like, let me see your road sample, and I'm playing with it and I'm stretching it and I'm like, yeah, this will make a great Roman, will make a crappy drape, it will hoop
Right.
out like a poodle skirt. So those are things to also keep in mind when we're talking about the anatomy of a drape too. Then what the face fabric is, that's another big component of,
That's
because
great.
like these drapes that you're looking at here are gorgeous in the way they pleat and the hand. Well, I often talk about the hand of the fabric. So you could tell the ones in the picture here just have a very nice drapable hand to them
Mhm.
versus my,
Things that stick
trouble
out.
my troublemaker here at the top of my steps in my showroom.
All right, let me just take a really quick commercial break here. I see a
Yes.
few people joined us recently. So if you've just joined us, what you're watching is episode number 88 of Window Treatment Friday Live, which is a series that Kim and I have been doing for almost 2 years now. We started it
Yeah.
during COVID, and here we are in 2022. Every Friday morning at 9 a.m., Kim and I hang out here for about half an hour, sometimes 40, 45 minutes, depending on the topic. And every Friday, we take apart a different topic, but all of them have to do with window treatments. So both of us are self-proclaimed window treatment geeks. We own or co-own window treatment companies on the Northeast coast of United States. And every Friday morning, we geek out on all things window treatments. And today, we talk about the anatomy of the drapery panel.
Yeah.
So the one last thing that I wanted to mention is that, oh, we have a question.
Which fabrics puff out more than others? Polyesters? Yeah, I mean, it depends on honestly the way the fabric is woven. That's really how it is. Because the one that we have here, that's the troublemaker. It's like it has viscose in it. It's like it's a whole blend of things. So you can see it when you're like you can actually see it if you take a sample of a fabric and you start to like pinch it at the top and you start draping it down. If it starts puffing out like this, the sample, then you know that as a big piece, it's going to puff out. Like that's
Yeah.
the little test that I use when a designer asks me, how is something going to drape?
Yeah.
And
I also want to mention that sometimes polyesters get a bad
bad
rap,
rap.
and I'm gonna have to defend polyesters here for a
Yeah.
second. I've done uh, a lot of polyester drapes that have behaved absolutely beautifully. The hand was gorgeous, the weave was beautiful, and they draped absolutely gorgeously. And I've done some cottons, believe it or not, that went just kind of went like that. Definitely silks. I mean, I think silks for sure. But I think that's also how they are supposed to behave.
That's
You
the
know,
language and what the beauty of a silk. I mean,
right?
there's
It's
a
not going
very
to drape
right.
necessarily.
There's a good if you want a very good like faux linen out there, because if you don't like the look of wrinkles and anything else, JF Darjeeling is a really great faux linen. It's a 100% poly, drapes like a dream. We use it a lot, a
Mm,
lot, a lot, a lot. So,
mhm.
and we have
Say again the name of that company?
it's JF Fabrics, and
Oh, yeah.
and the pattern is Darjeeling.
Okay.
So it's a faux linen. It probably comes. Hold on, I have it. I have the book right here. I can go grab it.
Okay. While you're grabbing the book, you guys, let me talk to you about weights. Okay. Um, so we're talking about an actual metal weight. It looks like this. Um, and it weighs a few ounces. They also come in different sizes. This particular one is about half an inch by half an inch, but it does come in different sizes and different weights. And where we put it is in the corner of the bottom hem. So it is sewn inside, so not on top. I'm just putting it here just to let you know where it goes, but it is sewn inside, like I can feel it in here, so that the corners of the drape, which sometimes tend to kind of smile
Smile
up
up.
and go up, the weight helps bring it down. Okay. And so smiling is a whole different issue. I don't want to get into it right now,
No.
but one of the standards, again, this is a standard in the industry, is that all custom drapes have this weight of different size, but looks something like this in the corner, in both corners of the panel. And the weights come just for my workrooms. They usually come in like a little package like that. They come in the count of probably 100, and we get them from our wholesale supplier. So every workroom needs to put those weights into their draperies.
There's also another what we do a lot too with shears because I don't I'm not a fan of like a 4-inch double turn bottom hem on a shear. Some people like it. I mean for me it depends on the shear. We'll do a 1/4 inch rolled bottom hem with a beaded chain at the bottom
Mm-hmm.
or Euro chain, depending. Some shears already come. The shears coming from Europe and Germany specifically will come with the Euro. They call it the Euro chain at the bottom. But
Mm-hmm.
we also do that here to help keep the weight of the shear.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is just so you can see. This is the Darjeeling fabric.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a faux linen. So you see how it has a nice. I mean, this is a little baby sample, but it has a nice drape to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes up a very nice Roman shade. It makes up a very pretty drape. And it comes in all these fabulous colors. So
How thick is that book?
it's about that thick.
Nice. Nice. And it's all 100% poly?
Yep, this is oh no, it's a Collie Pot and blend. So this, but
Yeah.
this definitely has a nice drape to it. And then there's another one too, I believe from Kravet.
Can,
That's a poly.
can you spell the pattern? I'm putting JF Fabrics is the name of the fabric company,
Yep,
and
and
spell the
Darjeeling is Darjeeling.
Darjeeling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hopefully I spelled it right. Okay, so that's the name of the pattern. Like we also have a few go-tos for poly cotton blends or some sort of poly blends. That's what we love using here if we have a say in what the designer picks. And sometimes we don't. The designer just, does what she does, and that's fine, totally understand. But when we do, when she can use our fabric library, we also often have our go-tos for just solid colors. It comes in every imaginable hue of every color.
Right.
For us, it's usually Mitchell's and
Mm-hmm.
Michael's. They have some really good and Unique too. Unique
Mm-hmm.
has some really great solids that come in different poly blends and linen blends and just different weights. So we even have a section, like the way we organize our fabrics, we have a whole section in our in this rack right here, but towards off the screen you can't see, where we keep all of our solids. So if we know that we're looking to do a solid drape, we just go directly to that
Mm-hmm.
section and pull out books and then decide what weight and what makeup of the fabric we're going to have.
Yeah, that's how we have it broken down. Solids, multi-purpose, the whole, yeah.
Yeah. All
Exactly.
right. We've talked enough drapery panels enough. If you guys have
Yes.
any questions, let us know. If you want us to do another episode on and break it up even more, let us know. Thanks for hanging with us. But before you go, let us tell you a couple of more things.
All right. To keep up with all things Miss Luann, head on over to luannigara.com, where you can listen to a well-designed business podcast where this whole lovely Window Treatment Friday Live started from. Luann and Vita have an episode where they call it WTF, where they get into the business side of window treatments and all that great stuff. And now Luann is also starting another podcast, a window treatment podcast. I don't remember the name. I know that it's
Window
launching
treatment for profit.
Window Treatment for Profit, and it's launching April 4th.
Mhm.
And Vita is going to be an ongoing host where it's Vita's Tips in 10. Did I
Yep,
got that right?
Vita
Yes.
Slip and
Tips in
10.
10.
Yep, exactly.
So where Vita is going to be featured on every episode. So yay to
I
Vita!
don't know. No, not every episode,
Every
but
okay.
every week. So there's
Every
3
week.
episodes per week is how
Okay.
Luann is starting it.
Okay.
And I believe mine will air on Wednesday. So
Okay.
every Wednesday you will have 10-minute boost in the morning, if you will, or wherever you need your espresso shot, metaphorically speaking. I want to come into your earbuds and just give you a real quick tip on something business related with window treatments.
So we are all excited for that. And if you are new to window treatments and you're like, this was a lot of information today, I need the basics, head on over to windowworksnj.com where you can download your free copy of the ebook that Luann wrote a couple years ago, Architectural Digest Isn't Coming, 10 Things You Need to Know About Custom Window Treatments.
And from Vitalia Inc., we also have a quick free gift for you. It is a lookbook that we designed. It is curated lookbook filled with inspiration and education. We call it 37 and a half window treatment ideas for you to steal, swipe, and use immediately in your next design project, filled with eye candy and something that you can use as reference with your clients.
And if you are in the New Jersey and New York area, please give WindowWorks a call. We would be happy to help you on your next drapery or whatever window treatment project you have or awning project. And if you are interested in an awning, now is the time to get it. I know it sounds crazy, but if you want something for the summer, you want to give us a call so we could have your awning up and ready for you to enjoy.
And if you are in the Philadelphia area or really anywhere around the country and you're an interior designer working on luxury interior design projects and would like full, comprehensive, all-encompassing white glove level, concierge level service and support with your window treatments, we are your company. Please contact me at my phone, DM, PM, anything you need is here. Would love to support you.
Alrighty, everyone. Well, that is today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us on episode 88. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you next week at 9 a.m. because if it's Friday,
it's WTF Live. And in case you're wondering, nope, WTF is not what you're thinking. It stands for Window Treatment Friday.
Yes.
However, if you know anything about window treatments, you know that all of us have had those WTF moments many times in our window treatment careers.
Yes. Yes,
So join us
ma'am.
here every Friday at 9 a.m., next Friday and the following as we unpack yet another wonderful, beautiful, and confusing topic of window treatments. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.